We begin tonight with a troubling development in Imo State, where raid security operatives have been killed and burned in Umezala, Owerri, in Ehime Mbano local government area of the state. We advise that some of the pictures from the incident may be disturbing. The incident, which occurred early this Tuesday, has thrown the entire local government into fear as most residents have fled from their homes. Governor Hope Uzodinma, along with the Imo State Commissioner of Police and the Director of State Services in the state, paid an assessment visit to the area. The governor expressed sadness over the incident, saying the state government is collaborating with security operatives to do everything possible to fish out the perpetrators of the crime.
Since we have leaders from this area, we have our brothers and sisters who live around here. This battle has to be collectively fought. People must volunteer information, because these people, they don't just emerge from heaven. They live around here, they live among us, and to the glory of God, the soldiers and other security officers have been able to manage their temper. You know, this kind of thing is very provocative. And one of the reasons why I'm very quiet about this incident for now is I'm very sad and I feel so hurt. It's a terrible situation where officers will come to protect, to work for us, and people will come from nowhere and just ambush them and take their lives. We are not God. We pray to God. God will take care of every situation. As human beings, we also do things to console and do whatever we can to support the families. And while praying for God to give them the fortitude to bear the loss.
And Tuesday's incident is coming barely 1 month after 22 soldiers were killed in Niger State. Now, how will the nation react to threats against the state? We're joined now by security expert Dr. Kabir Adamu. He's also the CEO of security firm Beacon Consulting. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
My pleasure.
Here we are again, a really brutal killing of soldiers. How do these people really have the ability to plan these attacks and carry them out successfully? Why are soldiers, our security agencies, operatives so vulnerable to these attacks?
A multitude of reasons, sadly. In a war situation, one of the advantages that the military or either side would have is the kind of equipment at their disposal. In this instance, both in terms of weaponry, then more importantly, intelligence. You heard the governor speaking about intelligence, even though I'm surprised he used the word must. If I was going to advise him, I would have replaced that must with should. You develop the desire of people to share that information with you. You win their hearts and minds. Now, our military are operating in an environment where sadly they've not been able to develop the hearts and minds of the people. And in Ngozi, I can't understand why our military are moving around in light-skinned vehicles. It's easy when you shoot at a light-skinned vehicle, both the velocity, the type of bullet, to pierce that vehicle and reach its target. I also cannot understand why the protective gears that the military need to be able to withstand such targeting is missing in that regard. So many other factors that have made, sadly, our soldiers and other security agencies easy targets for, and it's simple, these are non-state armed groups that have decided to challenge the supremacy of the use of force by the state, and sadly they've been able to do that successfully. We need to put a stop to that.
Question is, how do you do that?
Yes, again, what is it about Imo State that we don't know? Do you want to talk to us about that? Because it's either they're burning police station in Imo State, they're attacking the police in Imo State. What's so peculiar about Imo State that these criminals are focusing on innocent people in that state?
So the entire Southeast is bedeviled by this particular challenge, and I was very careful when I used the word non-state armed groups who are challenging the supremacy of the use of force by the state. Only the state, we as a people, have vested that power on the government, but some group of individuals are challenging that power. Now, why is it so apparent in Imo? The contested elections, the political environment in Imo, sadly has allowed these non-state armed groups the ability to recruit. What they do is they use grievances and several other factors, including socio-economic conditions, to recruit. Now, because of the circumstances that the elections held in Imo, and then of course we're about to approach another election, it allowed them the ability to recruit from within the group. So unless we address those root causes, including this political element and the socio-economic conditions, as well as the perception of marginalization, some of it real, others perception, sadly these groups would still continue to have the ability to recruit and carry out their actions. Of course, we can talk about their access to weapons, because, I mean, think about it. Any weapon that is able to pierce a vehicle like that is a military grade.
How do they access weapons anyway?
So many ways. They import it from across, they get it from our security forces, and in certain instances there are manufacturing capabilities within the country that is able to supply that. So access to weapons, frankly, is not a challenge for them.
So in spite of all the attempts, staying on the issue of access to weapons, there have been attempts by the IG of police, asking these the commissioners of police at the state levels to, mop up the light, small and light weapons in their domains. Have all of this failed? What exactly?
Why?
Failed. Why have they failed?
They failed.
What needs to be done really to truly mop up, weapons in the system? Most importantly, block them from coming in the first place.
The regional direction for that was the establishment of a commission. And I think we are the only country in the region that is yet to establish that commission. Out of frustration, the immediate past president issued an order, and I think there is an office within the Office of the National Security Advisor that is carrying out that function. Sadly, we're not seeing enough collaboration between the arms of government. You've mentioned some efforts by the Inspector General of Police. How closely is he working with the coordinator of that office within the Office of the National Security Advisor that is attempting to mop up those weapons? How closely is he working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and several arms of the foreign service component? So we need that commission to galvanize that effort, but also more importantly, corruption within the system. When a custom officer, as an example, turns his head and allows cargoes and other things to come into the country without knowing the content, or sometimes even knowing the content, but because its self-interest has been met, then weapons would continue to go. I've studied the gun-running channels within Nigeria, and I can tell you boldly, most of them are being manned and controlled by our security officers.
But
so the security officers themselves actually compromise the system. Is that what you're saying?
Certainly. None of us here, either as a journalist or me as a private practitioner, can give you access to the ammunition that you need. So if you've got, as an example, a license to carry whatever kind of weapon, the only place you can get the ammunition for that weapon is actually from either retired. I'm not saying that they are doing it as an institution. These are either retired security personnel or serving security personnel that have gone south, that are corrupt.
Right.
So the system has to find a way to ensure that the armory, as an example of most of our security organizations, what is the sanctity of that armory? How many organizations actually know the number of weapons that they have in those armories? And then talk about weapons. What of the ammunition that services those weapons? So those things require. I mean, we're here when the report was released 2 years ago, about a year ago, from the office of the I think the Auditor General of the Federation, that showed clearly certain weapons have been released from the armory of the police into the hands of criminals. What have we done to correct that? Not much, really.
But yet again, the president just put in place new service chiefs. I mean, so one should have expected a swift change, or is it too early to hope for the better?
No. I mean, honestly, every Nigerian should be wearing an armband, or our flag should be waving at half-mast for what happened today. And we should convene the National Security Council that this number of officers have been killed. We should take it more seriously than we're taking it. Now, the service chiefs that you mentioned are just a very small component of the national security sector. I keep on saying that we've got like 29 ministries, departments, and agencies in security. There's very little the service chiefs can do to stop this. It requires the effort of all Nigerians, the whole of government, both at the federal level and at the subnational level. Otherwise, it is an existential threat. Where non-state armed groups are able to challenge the supremacy of the use of force in the manner that we've just seen, it is an existential threat that we need to deal with.
And it almost seems like the genie is out of the bottle. How do you put it back in the bottle?
Like I
because
said,
in the case of Imo, it looks like an attempt to create maximum fear. And like you said, there's political undertones.
Like I said, it should be a whole of government approach. The government needs to buy the hearts and minds of the people. And I'm very happy that in the Renewed Hope manifesto of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, government, they did indicate that desire. They want to win the hearts and minds of the people. Now we're waiting for the implementation of that. You cannot force people to volunteer information to you. You have to find a way to show them that it is in their interest. So build a strategic communication mechanism that speaks to the people. When they understand that those security forces are there to protect them, then they will volunteer information that will help the security agencies and help them. It's not by force. It's by taking actions to show government is effective, to show that government is there to meet the needs and desires of the people. Then people would volunteer that information.
Please help us understand that strategic communication methodology.
Unfortunately, there's no time
How do we? Very quickly.
As an example,
yes.
Ministry of
30 seconds
Information
if you
and
can.
Ministry of and NOA, a National Orientation Agency, they need to wake up from their slumber.
There you go. There's no better way of putting it. Dr. Kabir Adamu, thank you so much for joining us. CEO Beacon Consulting there, security expert joining us.